Okay, hello. This is such an exciting video. Oh my goodness, you don't even know how exciting this is. This is the second update, I guess. Well, first update since the announcement video. But this is book 2. And I don't mean the second book. No. This is still the same book. I don't know if I mentioned it in the first one. Oh my goodness. Since the first video, it's been so long. I don't even remember what I said in it. So I'm just going to do a quick recap, okay? I'm writing a book about the build-up to the first major event of the French Revolution, okay? The book doesn't actually have anything to do with that event. It is simply painting a vast portrait of the lives of various fictional people in December through April of 1788 and 1789, okay? The planned word goal is 250,000, at least for a first draft. I want to get it there, and I should. So now that leaves me with, where am I now? Right? I think I wrote 8,000 or 9,000 words after the first week-ish for the first video. Okay, well, it's way past that now, so obviously you would be expecting me to be way further. And I am. I don't know how many weeks it's been. Well, no, I do. It's been just over 2 months, because I started writing March 9th, and now we are past May 9th. I'm pretty sure it's either May 18th or 19th, like 2 months and a week. So probably it's probably been, in that case, it's been almost exactly 2 months since the last video, because that was 1 week after March 9th. Where I am now, I'm at around 54,000 words, which is way more than I have written in any other book since 2021. 2021 is the last time I actually finished writing a book. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Actually finishing books that you're writing, I mean, I'm not finished yet. I'm only just over a fifth of the way through. But actually finishing books that you're starting to write is, so much more rewarding than just stopping writing them because of, any number of reasons. Yeah. So I would say that this method I have of plotting but not plotting is working very, very well. Like, the level of detail that the plotting went into was bullet points where a description of a scene that could be anywhere from 1,000 to 22,000, no, 1,000 to 2,200 words was, the description of it was, maybe 1, maybe 2 sentences. And it's always like an action. Character does blank. Or character speaks to character. You know what I mean? Like, I leave enough wiggle room, typically, that the scene can kind of go wherever I feel like the current vibe of the story needs it to go. However, if I get to a bullet point, immediately read it and go, this doesn't make sense anymore based on what I've changed since starting to write, then I will scrap it entirely. Like not scrap it entirely as in I'll remove the scene. I'll scrap it entirely as in I won't listen to what the bullet point says, and I'll reframe it. Like, if I'm naming a specific character and what they're doing, then, but the thing that they're doing doesn't make any sense anymore, then I will simply scrap what they're doing, take the same character, and write a new scene based on what they should be doing now, since I've actually started writing the book and it's not just plotting without anything. And I'm also realizing that there are a number of things that I feel like I'm forgetting. Not forgetting. Now, a number of things that I put in that I left out. But not left out because I knew about them and chose to leave them out, left out because I didn't know about them. But now, while writing, I'm going back and thinking, oh, it would have been really, I'm liking this character a lot more. Let's do more with this character. But it turns out that I don't do hardly anything with this character. You know what I mean? And there's actually one character who originally I thought was going to be very fun to write, who has become the bane of my existence. Every time I see his name come up as a bullet point or like a whole scene, and this is like the 4th or 5th time I've seen him this month, I can't do it. I'm like, I could do anything but write him right now. Like, maybe it's because I feel like it's too repetitive or boring in his character, and his arc isn't great, but the issue is I can't remove him because the arcs of like 2 or 3 other characters depend on him changing or existing at all. So it's like, what can I do? But when I get to him, it's like all I want to do is not write him, but I don't actually think any of his scenes are boring once they're written. You know what I mean? I think it's not that the scenes are boring, it's more so that I feel it's too repetitive, and because it takes me way longer to write the scene than it takes to read the scene, it feels like it's going more slowly than it actually is. But I need him or some incarnation of him desperately in this story. Because otherwise, I run the risk of everything being too samey, right? So I need him to break things up a little bit. But I don't love him. Yeah. So I'm going to write all of his scenes now, but the issue is that I think he has too many scenes, because especially writing part 1, it kept coming up that I thought, oh my goodness, it's him again. Why? It felt like I wrote his last scene, 3 days ago, when in reality it was like 2 weeks ago. Which is, it's hard. I'm going to push through his scenes because I feel like he's very front heavy in the book. He does a lot at the beginning, but then the further we get into the story, the more it becomes about his children or his 2 sons. And then he's kind of just a pawn in their story, so to say. Like, it becomes way more about them and what they're doing, and they're definitely more interesting, though I've only written technically 1 scene for each of them, but they were both better than the 4 scenes with their father I've had to write. And yeah, he keeps sneaking into every scene with his wife too. Like, I've written 1 or 2 scenes that are supposed to be just his wife, and he's in both of them too, because I couldn't think of anything to do just by herself, and like the way I originally wrote the scene, it didn't make any sense. Or it stopped being interesting, I guess. Like, one of the bullet points I had was that she writes a letter. But then I thought, okay, well, I already have another character who's writing a lot of letters. And she's doing it really closely in terms of time reading the book to the wife. So I can't just have her write a letter anymore. So I changed it to the husband finds the letter that she wrote right after she wrote it, and they have a big fight because he doesn't want her to send that letter, and he doesn't know why she would ever write something like that. And she says she's doing it for the family and all that nonsense. And they have a big fight. But he weaseled his way into the scene. And he's practically almost the protagonist of that scene. But yes, I also need to balance it out by adding a lot more, because the more I'm writing it, the more I'm thinking, this scene would be good. This B plot for this character would be good. You know what I mean? Like, I'm getting so many extra ideas and I'm putting them down as notes. I'm not re-outlining the book yet, because the book already stands by itself without these I guess subplots for these characters. But I don't want to skip out on them. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm writing it in such a way that I'm going to finish the first draft as it is, because I don't think there are any issues with it. But then, once that happens, I'm going to re-outline with everything, reread everything, one, see if there are any scenes that just need to go, see if there are any characters who actually feel like they have way too many scenes, and, like fix the distribution of that, or try to re-edit, and then figure out who feels like they're actually lacking storyline, who I should be inserting these new ideas with. And that would be draft 2, and then draft 3, I kind of do that process over again. And I've written it in such a way that it's almost like episodic. You're almost never seeing the same character in the same context 2 scenes in a row. Almost never. So it's very easy for me to slot things in and out and move things around, because other than the month that they take place in, there's almost never mention of a specific day that something is happening. So I'm able to reorder things in time quite a bit, as long as it makes sense within the story. But yeah. So it's like, it's written in such a way that it will be extraordinarily easy to edit, because every scene is tied to a specific character and is in a specific month that can be reordered potentially, or just removed entirely, or I can insert something here very easily, because every chapter, as I said, is broken up into those scene documents. So every single scene or time break is contained within its own document, which makes everything infinitely easier to move around. And as I said, I'm really, really loving this plotting method. It's like very loose plotting. It's like I've written instructions. No, it's like I've written a loose guide for myself to follow. It's like paint by numbers, except I'm the one who designed the painting and wrote out all the numbers, so now I don't have to think about mixing my paints anymore, or, where is my light and shadow going to go, because I've already worked all of that out. So now it's just about putting the paint onto the correct number and hoping that it works. And if it's not feeling like it works, then changing it while I'm writing it to something else. That's also something that I enjoy about doing this, is that I'm not forcing myself to ever retain a scene's original bullet point. As I said, if it's not working, I will simply change it to be something else always with the same character, though. I will never change the character the scene pertains to, at least not in this draft. But yeah, 54,000 words. I've got a lot of catching up to do after the trip to Toronto. I'm like, I think I'm 3,200 words or more behind now, so I've got a lot of work to do, and I've been keeping the pace of around 800 words per day, which is the pace I have to write this. 800 words a day for 10 months will get me to 250,000 words. That's a lot of months and a lot of words. But you know what? Considering I've done it for the last 2 months and I don't feel like stopping, what does that tell you? Clearly, I'm doing something right. Clearly, all of what I've done is setting me up for success in a way that previous drafting attempts from 2022 through 2024 just have not worked. And I hope to plot every book I write in the exact same way as I plotted this one. Because I don't think I could ever go back to how I used to write books. Because it just stopped working for me. You know what I mean? It just stopped. The more complicated I wanted the book to be, the worse that method of pantsing worked. It just stopped working. Because I wanted the stories to get bigger and more complex and everything. And as I said, it just stopped working, and I realized that kind of really late, because it made me, kind of try to work on the same book for nearly 3 years with almost zero real progress. Like, I wrote that book for 3 years, and I'm legitimately almost 10,000 words past how many I got in that book in 3 years versus this book in 2 months. Like, the furthest I got was probably 48,000 words. And I think I'm going to have to go back eventually. Probably not within the next 2 years, but eventually. I'm going to have to go back to that book because I want to write it and I want it to work and I know it can work. But I have to do what I did with this book. I have to go back and bullet point every scene and know the full extent of the story beforehand before I get back into it. Because I was just hitting way too many roadblocks of knowing I knew where I was going, but the specifics of how time was managed, like time in the month in the story worked. It was like I was trying to switch from writing a day-to-day account for 50,000 words to writing a month-to-month account for the remaining 50,000 words of that section of the book. And the more I wrote it, the more I realized, oh my goodness, I'm running out of story here. I'm running out of words to contain the story in. You know what I mean? And that was the huge roadblock. I didn't know how to fix that because I hadn't thought to write it in such a way that allowed me to switch from a day-to-day account for, a week and a half of this person's life for the first 50,000 words to the next 4 to 5 months of his life to get us to the end of part 1. But I'm going to fix it because I'm going to redo it. I'm going to redo all of it like I did this. And I'm going to work it all out in my Eon Timeline app first, because that really worked and it really works well. And then I'm going to transfer all of that to my full document length, and then I'm going to spend 12 months writing the first draft of it. Well, this has been fun, hasn't it? I will see you next time. Probably not soon. There's a decent chance that I will be at 100,000 words the next time you see me. So I wouldn't expect another video until July.